Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Montreal Canadiens have made their first big round of cuts of training camp. We'll tell you who survived and who has the best odds of making the team on today's episode.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into a brand new episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that ensures you support us here on the show and that you don't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as That Maybe It's Ian, and I'm joined, as I always am, by the wonderful Laura Saba, also known as the Arbor Xhekaj. Laura, the Canadiens got back to their winning ways on Saturday. They've only lost one preseason game, ensuring that, I believe, if the math checks out, the worst that they will go is 500 in the preseason, which is pretty good considering how preseasons have gone in the past. How are you feeling after this weekend?
I feel energized. I do want to shout out, we love our listeners. And honestly, sometimes when I think of our listeners, I get the same feeling that I get when I think about Nick Suzuki or Cole Caulfield. They bring me a lot of joy. We've got a lot of, longtime listeners, good friends of the show. And I did want to wish a happy 5th birthday to one of the Roberts brothers' children. I'm not going to dox his child on the podcast, but I just wanted to make sure that we shouted out his birthday. And I'm very excited that Lane Hutson scored a goal for him at the game, which is just, if you can count on Lane Hutson to do anything, it's to come through for you. So I love Lane Hutson. And so we just wanted to get that out of the way. But the game was fun. It's preseason. There's still a lot of, preseason, sometimes there's sloppy moments, etc. But I know we're going to talk about this in a second, but, Sean Farrell, Lane Hutson, people that, are going to really bring it in the preseason no matter what. They're not going to coast. On the flip side, there were a couple of guys who took the night off and posted some stuff on social media, so I thought that was really funny too. But I think you put it they dressed the Laval Rocket plus 4 top line people or something.
Yeah, I think that was Scoot Mortla who said that in our chat. Yeah, he, and he's right. And I think these last 2 games against the Leafs have illustrated that in the preseason, what matters more is not your skill level so much as your want to. The version of the Leafs that came to Montreal, they should not have beaten the team that was in Montreal. But the team that was in Montreal, most of them have solidified roster spots. They don't have to worry about anything. They got outworked by fourth liners and AHL guys who have something to prove. The inverse happened in Toronto on Saturday night. Montreal sent, Arbor Xhekaj and Alex Carrier both wore letters. They both wore the A, but they were also the Canadiens' top defensive pairing going into that game. They're their third defensive pairing on any other given night. So it just shows you that, the team that I think has more to prove is the one that's going to have a better showing. And then, of course, you have Lane Hutson just doing just incredible things still. I think that the fake shot from the point is becoming an epidemic for the Canadiens in a good way. That's 2 games in a row where we've seen somebody fake a shot from the point on the power play and just wrist it through for a goal. I hope we see this more often, to show a little bit more deception. But yeah, I think Hutson in that game, and they barely played him in the third because they're like, we're not going out there. You're good. We learned nothing. We will learn nothing from putting you out there. We're good. What did you think of the rest of the night for the Canadiens on Saturday?
I did, just really quickly to go back to the pump fake thing. Yeah. I had this moment when I saw the goal was, I wonder if Mike Matheson is learning lessons from Lane Hutson. And it just it just goes to show to me, all the things that they always say, development is not just when you make the NHL. Development goes on up until the last day, up until you hang up your skates. And so I just thought that was really funny. It just went through my mind after the goal. So honestly, like I said, there weren't, I didn't have any complaints about the game. There was nobody that I saw that I was like, but it's also it's Saturday night, right? And I felt that you said the want to, right? Some people showed their compete level. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the people excuse me, that the Canadians are still trying to learn about, they wanted to see that, that want to. One of the things I want to focus on here, Alex Newhook scored in this game. He was also put pretty high on the lineup considering what the Canadians had him doing. And I thought he had a great night even outside of the goal. I'm starting to seriously believe that Alex Newhook, the penalty killer, could work. Um, the first game that Newhook and Veleno played together, I looked at their face-off percentages. Newhook was over 50, and Veleno was at like 38. In this last game where they also played together, Newhook was at 50, which if you're at 50%, cool. We're living. That's great. And Veleno was at 69%. Nice. So I think, the I'm wondering how, like, Veleno is like, he went from being terrible to being excellent. So I'm kind of wondering where the average lies for him. But Newhook having both those games above 50%, it gives me a lot of hope that that can be a legitimate option and that he'll continue to work on this. What else are you seeing anything else in Newhook's game that's leading you to believe that maybe he can create that defined role for himself that we've been wanting for years?
I think that he's been, and this is just in my mind, is he's been very sound as like at anticipating play, right? He's
Yeah.
been really good at like receiving the pass. He's been really good at kind of, and through no fault of his own, he's had to do a lot of driving on his line the last couple of years, right? And maybe we haven't loved that so much, but I feel like like I guess Marty would call it reads, right? That's what
Mhm.
I'm seeing. I'm seeing better reads from him. I'm seeing good decision making. Like, and last year, we kind of praised that all along. Like he had good decision making. I felt like his role was not. Um, he was playing the wrong role,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm very encouraged by the stats in that it's definitely something that he knew he needed to work on, right? And he's definitely somebody who's putting in the work. And there's a lot of guys right now that like they're seeing their roles change and diminish, and every single one of them seems to be kind of accepting it, if that makes sense. Accepting it and embracing it. It's a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah,
I think that's an indicator that these guys want to be part of something special in Montreal,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
like Matheson is going into a contract year. He knows now he's not going to be on either power play, assuming Dobson is healthy enough to start the year, which who knows, but seems like that's leaning in that direction. He's not going to be on either power play. You're going to be a penalty killer. You're going to be, I guess they're playing with Dobson, so he's still a top four defenseman. But the power play was really where his bread and butter was in Montreal, and he's not going to get that, and he wants to be a part of it. Alex Newhook, on the other hand, like he's still trying to figure out what he is at the NHL level, and I think he's just at a point. I think a lot of players get to this point because coming into the NHL, they are always the best player on their team, right? Every team Alex Newhook played on, he was one of, if not the best player on that team, whether it's junior, pre-junior, high school, whatever he was doing. He was like, I'm the best player on this team. That's not the case in the National Hockey League because every other player was also that. Um, so he's still working on defining what that means for him. And I thought penalty killing, he did use his speed in an effective way, which is something that they talk about a lot. They want him to be able to use that speed that he has, not only for offense but for defense. And I thought back checking it was incredibly effective and will remain incredibly effective so long as he wants to continue to use it. But I just think that this player has more to give in this penalty killing role. I'm really hoping that we see him develop into a penalty killer, not only as in the sense that he can defend a power play and keep them off the board, but use his speed to also scare other teams offensively, right? Create some odd man rushes back the other way by picking the puck off and just moving north south really quickly. I think when he starts to do that, then those power play units are actually going to start to doubt what they can do even more. Well, I can't go that way because Newhook's there, and if he picks me off, we're getting scored on. So I think I'm still very much following this, especially because we haven't seen a full game with a full power play complement and a full penalty killing complement. Like we need to see them all together in order to understand, is Newhook on the first penalty killing unit? Is he on this? Like, what does that look like? So still very much a work in progress, but I feel very great heading into the end of camp here to see where Newhook is at. Any other comments, questions, concerns about that that last game in Toronto?
I just think it's really funny that like on this team, anytime somebody's losing their role, it's to go to the penalty kill and it fixes everything.
Yeah,
It's like we did
it's
it with
true.
Josh Anderson. They're doing it with Mike Matheson. Now they're about to do it with Alex Newhook. But that was just my final thought.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's leave that there. When we come back, the Canadiens made some cuts immediately after Saturday's game. We'll tell you who's going to the Laval Rocket and who's still vying for one of those open spots in Montreal. We'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire personal life together in one easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I know for me, what surprised me the most about Monarch Money was being able to identify that I'm not saving as much as I thought. I know I put some money away, and I know I have my investments, but it's definitely not as much as I think I can contribute. So Monarch helped me notice those inefficient investment allocations and discover forgotten money, like in 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, Laura, we have cuts. The Montreal Canadiens have made some cuts at their roster. They are getting ready for Laval Rocket training camp, which opens on Tuesday. So they want to make sure they have players for that training camp by cutting the wheat from the chaff here a little bit and sending the guys down who probably don't have a shot at being NHL players right now. Among those, the key ones that were sent down for me, Joshua Waugh, Phil Mesar, Luke Tuck, Vincent Rohrer was sent back to Switzerland because he's not eligible to play in the American Hockey League, and Jacob Fowler was sent down. Any thoughts on those cuts before we sort of look at who's left on the bubble to fight for a spot? Any surprises there for you?
I thought they would have wanted to keep Mesar a little longer. I think the organization is kind of, I feel, made up their mind on Joshua Roy, whether or not they're saying it or not.
Yeah.
It feels that way. But Philip Mesar really, to me, felt transformed this season. And I thought they would have not, like sometimes they do the thing where they reward you by keeping you until the last game, right?
Yep.
And he would have been cut this time next week instead. So I was surprised that they didn't do that because I really felt that he impressed with, and again, Joshua Roy would not, is not a surprise to me because I have kind of guessed that that's, every time there's a trade rumor or anything like that, his name gets floated as the player they throw in.
Right.
I don't think that they've made room for other people at this point, or their plans are to make room for other people. So that was really it. I was encouraged to see that Florian Jäckeray and Owen Beck, I almost called him Beckett for some reason. It's Sunday morning, folks.
Owen Beckett Seneca.
Yes, I know we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I was not surprised, and I was very encouraged to see that those two forwards were they're still here.
Yeah, and I want to get into the guys that are still around and who's fighting for those last roster spots. But yeah, I think I'm not surprised Mesar was cut. I didn't think he was going to make the NHL team, but this is the first time since his coming to training camp that I've legitimately started to see NHL upside. This is the first set of preseason games where I go, I can see the vision here. I understand what they're working on with him. I think that this is a supremely skilled hockey player who needs to figure out how he's going to play within his frame. Phil Mesar is not a big guy. The Canadiens have said that they want him to play like Brad Marchand, which I think makes a ton of sense still. But it's a guy that I think made a lot of people second guess their preliminary thoughts on him. Wonder, what happened this time around. I think he just has a more clear view of what he wants to be in the National Hockey League, and I think the Canadiens providing him with that goal to achieve, is helpful. On Joshua Waugh, I find it difficult to believe that this guy has a path to the NHL in Montreal, because he just got beat for an NHL roster spot by Owen Beck, Oliver Kapanen, Florian Jäckeray, Joe Veleno, and Sammy Blais, which I know are different. Those last two are different because if they can't just send them down; they have to waive them. So if push comes to shove, you'd rather send Waugh down because you have no shot of losing him on waivers. But even so, the fact that he could not outduel those guys for a spot, I can't help but feel that we're running out of racetrack here for this guy. And it's just another training camp where last year they had him penciled into a spot going into camp, and they held out hope until like the very end that they weren't going to have him and he wasn't going to be an NHLer yet. This year he didn't even make it to like the second to last or last preseason game. Like, he's one of the first cuts on this team. I just can't help but think that this might be over for him in Montreal. Like, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Canadiens to keep trying to force this to happen when new guys are showing up with more energy and more want to. It's why I scoffed at the whole, his whole best shape of my life thing. And I scoff at it at every junction because I think it's a silly thing for athletes to be saying. I know why they're saying it. But for a while, we were never like, oh, he's not in shape. It was always between the ears. And that's where it remains. Like, it's just, I did not see there. He was fine. He was completely fine. But Mesar was more than fine and he got cut. Beck was more than fine. He's still hanging around. So was Xhekaj. He was more than fine. Kapanen, I thought, especially in that Toronto game, I loved Kapanen in that second Toronto game.
I forgot to mention him in the first segment, and then I forgot to mention him in the guys they kept, and now it's like everyone's going to be like, "Why do you hate Oliver Kapanen?" That's going to be my bit for the rest of the season. Is I hate Oliver Kapanen.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Right, but Kapanen in that game against that second game against Toronto made it seem like they could go into the season with him on that line with Newhook and Bulldog. I thought that was a good line. Like, Waugh got pretty early cracks at that line, and he did not make a statement there. I thought Kapanen was good on that line. I think Beck would be good. I think Xhekaj would be good. So speaking of those guys, let's look at who's left. I mentioned the guys. So there's 34 players remaining in Canadiens camp, 19 forwards, 12 defensemen, 3 goalies. Beck, Kapanen, Xhekaj, Veleno, and Blais are really the ones that are vying for that final forward spot in the lineup. Who's your clubhouse leader right now going into the final week of training camp?
Honestly, it's Florian Jäckeray.
Yeah, I think I'm there too. And it's
the
a shame
energy.
I've liked the other guys.
Yes.
I think if Owen Beck has capitalized on if Owen Beck has capitalized on like a third of the chances he's had, we're having a different experience. He's got that almost Beck going for him right now, which is like he had, I think since the rookie tournament, he's had like 5 or 6 odd man rushes where he's been in the driver's seat, and I don't think he's capitalized on a single one. Not all to his fault, but like, think of how much of a different camp we're talking about for Owen Beck if he's able to score. Like in Toronto, he had a 2-on-1 and a breakaway, and he didn't score on either one of them.
Yeah.
Like, we're not even like, maybe Xhekaj is part of the cuts already. He's gone because they're like, we have it. It's Owen Beck. Like, I find that him not scoring on a lot of those is, important.
But they're giving him another shot, which I think is really important. And it's like you put it, right? Like, he's a victim of his own success in that, like, the Canadiens might just prefer that he's in Laval dominating, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just being like in Montreal on and off as the third or fourth line.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to. So there's Beck, Kapanen, and Xhekaj, who are the younger guys still on their entry-level deals. And then there's Veleno and Blais, who are, veteran guys. I think one of those first 3, Beck, Kapanen, and Xhekaj, is getting one of those roster spots. And I think Veleno or Blais, one of them is acting as the Michael Pezzetta, your extra forward, who we probably feel a little bit more confident in playing than we did with Pezzetta last year.
And I think it's Veleno.
I do too. I think
Yeah.
the fact that he's shown he can play center and he's starting to adapt the face, like it just gives you more flexibility, right? You can play him
Yes.
on the wing if you need to, but you're just giving yourselves a better option should somebody go down to injury. I completely agree with you. So if you were making the pick now at Xhekaj
Yeah.
gets it.
Today, yes, I'm absolutely picking Xhekaj.
I think Xhekaj's the top of my list, and Beck and Kapanen are both tied for second.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what they do with these last two preseason games. Usually that last game is a tune-up, so I wonder if they're going to find a way to play all of these guys in that
Yeah.
that game in Quebec City against Ottawa this week.
They've all
Um,
been excellent. I
yeah.
just had this flashback to a time when they played Michael Pezzetta second line center one time last season.
Uh,
Uh, and now I want to go back to bed.
well, remember they did that, but like they put that up on the lineup card, but Pizzetta played like 3 shifts at 5-on-5 because it was just like we just need to put a spot there, and like Suzuki's gonna filter in and play, and Evans is gonna play some there.
He's alive.
It was so stupid. It was such
He
a
fits the
stupid time for this team.
profile.
Stay healthy, Kirby Doc. We don't need to do that again. All right.
Please.
We'll leave that there when we come back. We'll hit our weekly recap. We'll talk about who made some waves in a positive sense and a negative sense as the Canadiens continue to barrel through preseason. And we'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. The NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put $5 down, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, I've talked about FanDuel a lot. I love using it because it matches how I want to play because there's so many different ways to play. I like to build parlays. I love to play anytime touchdown player props, building those in together. It's really fun to follow along with the game that way, especially on Sundays. We get to follow along and see all of these games going on at once. Are all of my different player touchdowns hitting? It makes watching football that much more exciting when I've got a little bit more riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, it's recap time. Let's start with some of the things that we didn't like from this past week of the opening of preseason for the Montreal Canadiens. If you had a guy that you're looking at and going, I wasn't a big fan of how he played in this first week of training camp, who's the first name that comes to mind?
That's tough because I remember having this conversation in the group chat with you and Scott. And I remember, like, brightly in my mind, me being annoyed with his play, and now it doesn't even come to mind. um,
I'm trying to
honestly,
think. Yeah, go ahead.
was it a bubble player? I don't even know. Was it a goalie? Could be a goalie.
Yeah, I thought it's funny we got both good and bad Sam Montembeault in the
Mhm.
first in his starts in this preseason. I think Capo Kakinen didn't play great in his first game. I thought he was very good in the Toronto game. The Canadiens are down to 3 goalies, so they've decided, I've kept hearing people think that Fowler was going to take a spot in this year's, and I was just like, guys, there's 2 goalies ahead of him, and they did that's by design. The
Yes.
goal was to not have him play goal in
Yes.
Montreal this year, and they're going to do that. Yeah, I thought it was also funny. Like, it's a Saturday night. The feed that I was able to get was from Sportsnet, and Elliot Friedman talking about the Canadiens power play, and he's like, I wonder if what the Canadiens are going to do because now they have Dobson and Hutson. I wonder if they put them both on the same power play. It's like you're not paying attention. Like that was decided weeks ago at this point that they're going with 2 different power play units that are 1A 1B. Anyway,
Mhm.
it's just something that was stuck in my craw from last night. Just the slop that we are often forced to watch from people who don't know what they're talking about. I know people are listening to this show going, well, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And I have to agree with you on that one. But here's the thing. You can leave. Look, I think to me, the biggest surprises were Mesar for me. And I think I will still put Florian Jäckeray in that list as a big
Yes.
surprise because we knew he was this kind of guy. I just didn't know how ready and willing he would be to be that guy now. And
Yes.
I
I
just
think it
don't know,
was
like, if they send him down, what are they waiting for, right?
yeah. I think it was the acceleration for Florian Xhekaj. And it's I can't help but compare him to Owen Beck's trajectory simply because they're both up for the same spot, right? That's all.
Yeah.
That's the only reason, right? I'm not trying to make them both into the same player. I understand the differences between them, but Owen Beck is gradually increasing, and Florian Xhekaj is seizing improvement by the horns, right? One person we did not mention at all was Adam Engstrom,
Yeah,
who,
quiet camp from him so
yes,
far.
he did not make any waves, but he also did not do anything to make me feel like the Canadians are not in good hands, right? I didn't see him wildly generate offense or anything like that. But what I did see was I didn't notice a lot of mistakes from him, which I thought was really, really important.
Yeah.
And I think that he's definitely like he's Laval bound. But I think that at the end of this year, we have a very different conversation with him. Like at the end of this year, assuming Mike Matheson is still on the team after the trade deadline, we're having a very different conversation about Adam Engstrom. If
Yeah.
not before, if not at the trade deadline, right?
Yeah, and well, Adam Engstrom might be and likely is Laval bound. Um, it really depends on how these injuries shake out. I know that Dobson and Gooley are both dealing with groin injuries that they say are not serious in their day to day. But if one of them has to miss time, it's probably Engstrom that pulls into the roster. It's probably Struble that gets the actual lineup spot, but they're probably keeping Engstrom just as a guy because you can't have Mark Del Gaizo, you can't have some other guy like that. Even if they're just an extra, like you need to have a legitimate option there.
You can't have
Um,
a guy you forgot was a thing in that
yeah,
spot.
yeah. I will say, and I feel like I'm turning into the Arbor Xhekaj hater that people claim I am, or
No, no,
that everyone
no,
is.
no.
I thought the game against Toronto, he made a couple plays with the puck that I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The power play that he gave that they gave up the goal to John Tavares. Xhekaj comes in on the check into this corner, and it looks like he takes out Nick Robertson's legs from behind him. Should have been called for a penalty, and he wasn't. You're gonna get those from time to time. The problem is that he took that advantage that he got, and he got the puck, and instead of just like rimming it around the boards, he tries to go out up the middle, and it gets picked off, and they score immediately. And Nylander made the pick on him, and people are like, well, that's a good player. I'm like, this is the challenge, though, right? When you're a penalty killer, you're going to be playing against a lot of really good players,
The
and you
best
have
players on every team, maybe even.
yeah, not even maybe. Yes, it is that you are playing against the other team's all-stars. You have like in that play, I'm like, if you're vying for a spot on the penalty kill, and it's what we set up as the differentiator at the beginning of this between him and Jaden Struble, whichever one
Yes.
of you can figure out how to penalty kill at a higher level, you've
It's
probably
gonna be
got the
the
spot.
one. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to matter anymore because I think the spot there's just so much chatter about Xhekaj being very much improved, which I still agree with.
Yes.
But then I saw that and I'm like, but like we can't have that. Like that
So
is they got a gift by he tripped Robertson and he stole the puck and they got a gift of a clear and he put it immediately right back on their tape. Like it just
yeah.
that's the sort of thing that drives me nuts. It's not just him, but this one was.
Arbor Xhekaj played the most minutes last night, which
For
is
sure.
yeah.
Did you
He
see the
definitely
rest of
did.
the defensive roster? You want
I
to play
did.
Mark Del Gaizo anymore? I can't do it.
I did. I think that like that let's say the prolific nature of his play last night resulted in the fact that there were two things that we had to point out, right?
Right.
I think overall though, yes, you're right, he can't be doing that, but overall he's not going to he's not going to be doing that all season because he heard about it after the game, right?
For sure. Yeah, it's
He
about
got
fixing
that
mistakes,
conversation.
right?
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
still and again, like when people say like, we don't like it's not that we love him. We want Arbor Xhekaj to be a thing. And we want
Yeah.
him to cooperate in that endeavor.
That's the perfect. We want him to cooperate is the perfect thought. You jumped into my mind on that one. That was can you just do it this way, please? Like that's what I feel like.
And I adore Arbor Xhekaj. Like I love that he's on the team. I think that he's still pretty young. We talk about how young he is. We talk about all of that, but like we need to like these things need to be getting better, right? Like
Yeah.
if he wants to be a long-term part of the Canadiens' future, he needs to be getting better at these things, and we want to see him do better. And again, if you guys weren't around last week, Ian is only not allowed to talk about Arbor Xhekaj boneheaded mistakes and penalties. If he scores a point,
Penalties. No. There was no mistakes. It was penalties. I read the fine print. It's penalties. This was not a penalty, except we were penalized by giving up a goal. That I know my rights.
But yes, we love Arbor Xhekaj. We are trying to gentle parent him into being better.
Any last minute thoughts on who made some waves this week for the Canadiens?
Just again, I'm just blown away by Mesar's improvement. It's the like the difference, like the delta of the improvement is where I'm at.
I agree with you. Like I said, it's the first time since his coming to Montreal where I go, this guy can be an NHL player. You see the path now. It makes a lot of sense. He has to develop some parts of his game, learn how to play within his frame. But I really, this is the first time where like, man, the skill is shining through for this guy. That was not always the case. So very much excited for that, to see how that develops in Laval this year. All right, let's hit our trivia and then head out of here for the day. All right, yesterday's question. Montreal's headed to Quebec City this week to play the Sens in a home game for Ottawa. Montreal will have only played one game outside of their province to start for the preseason, and it was against Toronto. The Montreal's last regular season game in Quebec was on April 26, 1995. It was a 1-1 tie. Who scored the Habs' last goal in Quebec City? Do you have the answer to that one, Laura?
You told me there was a story as well, but I don't remember who it was now.
Yeah, Brian Fogarty, power play goal from Pierre Turgeon. Brian Fogarty unfortunately lost his life quite early. Hockey did a number on him. It's one of the stories of guys who the sport takes their toll on him. It's a sad story, but he's currently etched in Canadiens history as the last Montreal Canadien to score a goal in Quebec City. I hope it's not the last. I hope that eventually we are marking a return to Quebec City, although I just don't know how they pull it off. All right, today's question. We spent a lot of time last week talking about backup goalies for the Canadiens. We had a lot of fun remembering some goalie guys. How many cup-winning goalies has Carey Price shared the net with? So the qualifications for this: Price must have appeared in a game for the Habs in the same season as this goalie, and the other goalie may have won a cup at any time before coming to Montreal, after coming to Montreal. So how many goalies has Price played with in Montreal that have either won a cup coming into it or won a cup afterwards? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video, or send it to us any way you know how, and we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show. And that's going to do it for us today on this Monday episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for tuning in and for making us your first listen of the day, and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that ensures you don't miss an episode, and it supports us here on the show. For your next episode, go check out the Locked On NHL podcast. It's the season's kicking off. Those guys are going to have your league-wide stories that matter. You're going to want to go check them out. I'm also going to be on there at some point for our Atlantic Division breakdown. As you're listening to this, it's probably it is coming out this week at some point. So go check it out. We hung out with Locked On Red Wings, Locked On Bruins, also another fellow named Ian, and Locked On Sabres. So go check that out. It was a lot of fun recording it, and you'll see what the rest of the division is up to. If you want to follow us, we are Locked On Canadiens everywhere we are posting things: Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com to send us in your mailbag questions. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.